The 2022 Candidates Tournament has come to an end, and today we're going to unpack who the true hero of this tournament was. It wasn't Nepo who won the entire thing, it's not Ding who also might play in the World Championship match if Magnus doesn't, it's not Hikaru either who brings the biggest audience to the stage, it's not Rajabov, the oldest player, or Faruja, the youngest, it's not Caruana either, who is already super familiar with the big World Championship stage, and it's also not Duda, who in 2020 stopped Magnus Carlsen's 125 unbeaten game streak. So perhaps due to the process of elimination or from the darkened image in the bottom right corner of the screen, you can already guess who the true hero was, and it was Richard Rapport. From the clothes that he wore at the tournament to his super energetic playing style, he brought passion and creativity to the Candidates 2022 and made the entire tournament as a whole infinitely more fun to watch. We're going to unpack some of the most exciting and creative moments brought to the tournament by Richard Rapport in the video today. You're watching the Chess Geek channel, subscribe for more videos like this, and now let's begin with a draw that occurred early on in the tournament. This was Caruana with the white pieces against Richard Rapport with the black ones, and I covered this draw already on my other social media platforms briefly, but it's so deserving of a more deep analysis, and it really shows why I believe that he's the hero of this tournament. So we got the Sicilian where Caruana went for a super aggressive move g4 here. And you'll see Richard Rapport is always known as a super creative player, and that's exactly what he shows in this game as well. He starts by launching his pawn to b5, which is super typical, but then he continues with the attack super quickly. Rather than trying to deal with his developmental issues and castle, he decides to continue moving his pieces and launching an attack. And objectively, this is not the best, but again, he doesn't follow objective guidelines. He goes for creativity and fun, and that is why it was such a delight to watch him in this tournament. So we saw him trading these knights off, and then developing the bishop, then developing the knight, and moving the bishop to c6, which might seem like a super slow move, but it actually carries a lot of venom with it, because the idea is to defend this pawn here, so then you free the a6 pawn to start running down the board without fearing for the b5 pawn that will fall. So now a5 and a4 is a series of pawn moves that is inevitable, and that's exactly what he goes for. So we see g5 and a5, and then we see f4 and a4, and you can see that Caruana started the game very aggressively, and Rapport, instead of backing down, playing more solidly, and trying to take advantage of the potential weaknesses of the aggressive play of Caruana, he responded exactly how Caruana played. He played aggressively and gave Caruana basically a taste of his own medicine. And you can see now the rook comes to d1, the bishop finally develops, queen comes to d4, it's attacking the bishop, attacking the pawn. At least some would consider to either move the bishop back and defend the pawn, or maybe take the knight here and then deal with the pawn, do something to care about this pawn. I mean, it's clearly a very important pawn, but no. We see queen a5, sending the queen out on a mission to continue running this pawn down the board. The queen, of course, takes on g7. Now there's certain threats like f5 in the air, where if the knight moves, you lose the rook. But of course, Rapport doesn't care about these opposing threats. He's going for his own plan. He goes a3. He's trying to promote this pawn and get another queen. We see king f2, pawn takes, knight to e2, and here we see the move e5. Now, after f5, it is true that if the knight moves, the rook hangs, and so at this point, Rapport had to find the objective draw in the position, which was this repetition, because the queen is trapped and it can't go anywhere, and the game ended in a draw in this position. But you can see that it was a super exciting draw, and it gets rid of this idea that draws are always boring. Draws can be just as exciting as very decisive results, and that is what happened here. And the reason it was so exciting is because both Caruana decided to play aggressively, but also Rapport played super creatively, giving away a pawn here, making the game super sharp and tactical, and getting a pawn on b2. It's a super hectic game, and it just made watching this round of the tournament so much more exciting because you didn't know who was winning, who was going for an advantage. It was hectic. Let's move on to a much more controversial moment, and I'd like for you to leave your thoughts on this because this was definitely a talking point for both sides of people. People were complaining that Report did this, and people like me really admired it. So this was later in the tournament, Report against Nepo, and this was a stage in the tournament where Nepo already established his dominance. I mean, he was leading the tournament really convincingly, and Caruana and Ding were trying to hold on and not let the lead become so big. Report was playing against Nepo, and it was very obvious that Nepo prepared this line here. And it was a line where Nepo basically sacrifices the b7 pawn and also the a8 rook as well. Instead, he gets a knight, but then he sacrifices a bishop as well. A really brilliant concept, threatening mate you more or less have to take, and the whole point is now black is going for a check. And there's no real way to stop this perpetual. And so on Nepo's mindset, this is a super smart strategical idea. I mean, he's leading the tournament, he's playing with the black pieces, a draw would work wonders for him. However, Rapport was not going to go out without a fight. And because the opponent clearly prepared for this, I mean, bishop h3 is not something you find on the board. I mean, this entire line is not something you go into. You don't sacrifice a rook if you haven't prepared, and if you don't know that it's objectively a draw. So it's clear that objectively Report knew that the best continuation, the correct continuation, was going into perpetual draw. But he didn't want to. I mean, he was having draws this entire tournament. He wanted to spice things up and play more excitingly. And so he played f3, which is objectively not the best. And the whole purpose is you can still go, by the way, for a draw in this variation, but in the style that he wanted to develop his knight eventually, so you can still go for a draw as they're showing with king g2 and queen g6 check, but ultimately he wanted to develop his knight and play on, not go for these perpetual opportunities. But this allows the queen to come back, and now the white queen is trapped. And Report decided to play with this imbalance. And as I mentioned, this was super controversial because objectively, this is not good for white. Practically, it's definitely not over yet. I mean, materially, white is actually doing fine, and it's really only the fact that this king is super weak that gives black an advantage. Otherwise, I mean, if black is not careful, there's definitely potentials along the g-file and 8th rank to come back and fire at this king as well, especially with these pieces that could become super active and the knight that is misplaced here. So there is definitely compensation. It's not like it's a done deal here, but objectively, as I mentioned, it's bad. And many people, most people knew this. I mean, Caruana commented later that, you know, everyone knows that this is objectively bad and you should go for the draw. And of course, he was a little angry because he's trying to come back in the standings and fight Nepo and not let Nepo get extra wins. And Report basically did that. As you'll see, the game ended here, unfortunately, with a loss for Report. But in my opinion, I mean, he's had draws this entire tournament. He can continue going for draws, but it's not going to lead him to win this tournament. And at the very least, if he's not winning, he wants to spice things up, get good, fun games. He doesn't want to just go home every day with a draw. And I think I can respect that, and people need to give him credit for that. But as I mentioned, super controversial. And I totally also understand the other side that he did very much ruin things for Caruana and Ding. And so let me know in the comments what you think of this. I thought that this made the game so much more interesting. I mean, everybody, the commentators, all the fans pretty much assumed that this game would end in a draw. And so when he played f3, it brought excitement back to the tournament and back to the round. So I think that this was a super creative and energetic way to play, and even though it didn't yield the best results, it's creative, and that's what Report is known for, and that's why I want him to come back to these tournaments. It makes the entire field so much more exciting. All the rounds, you never know what's going to happen if Report is playing. The other thing that I really liked seeing in this tournament from Report was how he literally didn't care. I mean, he didn't abide by the normalities that is common for a tournament like this. We're talking about the 2022 Candidates Tournament. I mean, this is, aside from the World Championship, the highest level tournament. The people are competing to be in the World Championship seat. And that means that the players often will dedicate the entire time that this tournament is going on for, the weeks it goes on for, they dedicate their entire lives to this tournament. They prepare the second the game ends, they go home to their hotel and they prepare the entire time. But Report didn't. And this became abundantly clear when you look at the fact that he took, up to 2 minutes to make the first move, while everyone else was blitzing out their moves already on very theoretical variations. He was deciding what to respond with. And in an interview, he also explained this. Listen to this.
What made you choose this opening today?
I don't know, I just chose it in the moment. I didn't really look at chess after yesterday's game. I didn't even open Chessbase, actually.
In the interview, he was referring to this game that he played against Duda sort of in the middle of the tournament. And he, as he said, did not prepare one bit. He just played the game of chess. And I mean, that is just not seen at the highest level of the game. And I must say, I mean, this was such a beautiful performance. You can see that this game was absolutely magnificent. He gave away some pawns here to open up his pieces along this g-file. He then brought his rooks with this nice king maneuver to the open h and g-files, and here in this position after the move b4, which is a huge blunder, he took the pawn here, opening up the position. If they were to take with the knight, this would allow, among other things, simply to take, and the best move here is queen d7, but after queen h5, this will be checkmate. The game ended after takes with knight to e4. Now the knight is coming to f6, where it will deliver a very annoying check, and if you take it, then queen h5 will again lead to mate, and you can convince yourself of this fact as well if you'd like. But the point is, this will be totally game over, and indeed, in this position, Duda resigned. And so, it's not only that he didn't prepare and then played horribly. I mean, he played an incredible, beautiful, brilliant game, and it really goes to show how overhyped preparation is, even at the top level of chess. And of course, preparation is super important, and if you have infinite time, then preparation is something you should do, but there's also a case to be made for just going out and playing a game of chess, and that's exactly what Report likes to do in these tournaments, and it makes the game super fun, because not only is he not preparing for his opponent, but it also means that he's unpredictable. I mean, at the moment, he plays what he wants, and so his opponents can't really easily prepare for that either, and so it just makes the entire game super fun. So that's why, in my opinion, Richard Report is the hero of the Candidates 2022. Through not preparing, through wearing whatever he wants, through playing whatever he wants, he made the entire games, matches, rounds so much more fun and exciting to watch. Let me know down below what you guys think of Richard Report in this tournament. Did you enjoy watching his games? Do you agree that he is the hero? Do you think there's someone else that also was very important to making this tournament a huge, fun success? Let me know all of that below. Subscribe for more videos like this. Check out my chess website where you can see all the cool stuff that I'm working on, and I will see all of you guys next time. Peace out.